Okay. So, speaking of relationships, would you be able to give a few examples of healthy boundaries in, let's just say, a intimate relationship with a spouse or boyfriend girlfriend type of situation, and then also a healthy boundary or examples of healthy boundaries that we may see within family structure?
Sure. So let's talk about the intimate and the romantic spaces first, right? Because I think that that kind of can be easier because when we're dealing with family, there's a layering of things that come up. But in the dating stage, for instance, because there are different levels when we're in relationships in different stages, and so a very early boundary when you're in the beginning of a dating stage could simply be like you might just have a no touch or a no kissing kind of boundary with people that you haven't been in connection with for a certain amount of time. And that might be something that's a hard stop for you, right? No touching, no kissing on first dates. Simple boundary. And you don't always have to explicitly say it, but if the conversation and the time comes up, you get to express that to the other person in the situation. And I want to be really clear that your boundaries are for you, first and foremost, right? It's a conversation that you get to have with yourself, and then you're able to express it to others. If we are past the dating stage and in a relationship, another simple boundary that might be in place is that it might be like, no yelling. If we have a disagreement, we're not cursing, throwing things. We get to communicate with each other, have adult responsible conversations, and if someone gets too loud or too aggressive, then you assert that boundary, right? You initiate that boundary and you say, hey, remember we said this is not how we're going to communicate. And those are kind of two different ways in relationships where you can have a boundary, right? One can be unspoken, you know it, you hold on to it if you need to, and the other one is something that's explicitly expressed to your partner. Is that clear?
Very important. Yes.
Yes?
And
Okay.
two very important ones, yes.
And then when it comes to family, it's family is so intricate and those relationships are so much more complex. So I want to just acknowledge that it's not always easy to set personal boundaries in your familial relationship spaces, especially because we are most often unconsciously building connections with our family members. Because you're born into the family. So this is your mother, this is your father, this is your sister, brother, auntie, uncle, cousin, all of that. It's not like meeting someone and having a conversation about what your requirements are and what your boundaries are. So you're kind of figuring it out as you grow and as you learn your family members, and oftentimes as your boundaries are crossed, and then you recognize, oh, I don't like how that feels, right? I don't want this to happen again. And so the thing to do when it comes to family is to recognize when something has occurred that doesn't feel good to you, so that you acknowledge that for yourself. And then if you are able to have a mature conversation with your family member, you get to express to them and say, I really didn't like how it felt when this happened. Not, I didn't like what you did to me, or you did this, or you made me feel, because that becomes accusatory. So it's about taking ownership of your own feelings when it comes to family relationships and saying, this is how I felt when this incident occurred, and I think that there's a better way for us to go about that, or I think that there's a better way for us to address that. So moving forward, how about you come talk to me instead of telling my mama all my business, right? How about you tell me before calling auntie and uncle and having the discussion with them? And then simply allowing your family member to respond in whatever way they choose to, and then you moving accordingly after that.